What's up guys, I'm Gibson and today I want to talk about Horrific Visions. I know this video came out pretty late and the pre-patch is almost here. But with pre-patch, we get our class changes and we lose corruptions. Visions are still going to be there for maybe another 4 to 5 weeks. And without corruptions, they are going to be harder, even when scaled down. I personally clear them only to get as much higher item level gear as possible to get a better start in the new expansion. But I've noticed that lots of players are still struggling with soloing visions. As a result, they lose vessels, self-confidence, and simply get upset. I want to help you guys and hope that after this video you will be more comfortable diving into visions alone. In this episode, we're going to go through the Visions of Stormwind together in a slightly unusual format. I'm going to be playing a dummy, taking lots of damage and making lots of mistakes, so you guys could learn from them and use this knowledge in your next vision run. I want to start from the Titanic research first. Online resources recommend to take expensive mind and then get your gift of the Titans, and after that come back to this second tier. My recommendation would be, if you play in group, take the stabilizer, or if you solo in visions, take the defibrillation. This is a game changer, both of these researches. Yes, it makes your clear sight more expensive and all the rest researches, basically. But it is a safe play. And it's much better to have cheat death or free res than lose a vessel. Now let's look at the map. Make sure you install handy notes with Visions of N'Zoth edition to be able to see the locations of all crystals, chests, and buffs. Basically, each location has 2 chests and 2 crystals. The starting point has 3 chests, with 4th is the one that you get when you hand in your crystals. There is 2 routes available for your run. First, you can start from Dwarven District and then go to Old Town, or you can start from Trade District and go to Mage Quarter. My advice would be to start from Trade District and get to the Mage Quarter as soon as possible, because navigation in Mage Quarter can be pretty confusing, and the sooner you get there, the sooner you learn all the routes. There is nothing more annoying than messing up your run because you got lost. This is just the zone specifics that we have to deal with. The other 3 zones are pretty straightforward, so as soon as you get confident in Mage Quarter, feel free to start clearing the rest of them. The last 2 things that I want to cover in this pre-setup moment is the weak auras and sanity food. These weak auras right here are the ones that I found working the best for me. You use them to track your chests and crystals and your potions. It also shows your gift of the Titan when it's active and the cooldown. The sanity food is the kebab. It restores 100 sanity with a 3 minutes cooldown. With my calculations, you'll need about 20 of them before you get more resistance and stop losing sanity so quick. You're already familiar with the starting zone, but for the sake of the guide, I will cover the mobs here too. And I will start from the Fallen Void Speaker. In my opinion, he's the second most dangerous mob in this whole area after the guards. His main damaging ability is Mind Flay, which is shadow damage, but the most important is the Psychic Scream, which is several seconds fear. If you pull entire area, then you'll get 3 of those. Good thing is that you can line of sight them and it will interrupt the cast. This original recording took me about an hour, so I will try to squeeze it as much as possible and skip the less important parts. Now let's look at the guards. Falling Riftwalkers. They teleport behind you and cast Rift Strike, which is a several seconds stun. Just move aside from it. The second ability is Shadow Shift, which is a buff that makes them take 50% less damage and increase their haste by 30%. And that's it. Just avoid the stun, interrupt the buff, and kill them one by one. The rest of the mobs is much less dangerous. The globules explode when they're dead, so you just move aside. The Heart Piercers cast Piercing Shot, which is just stronger shadow damage. Crawling Corruptions buff themselves to do more damage, but lose movement speed. And Footmen cast Repeal, which absorbs most of the damage and reflects a part of it on you. That's pretty much it. Now before leaving the zone, make sure you collect all the chests and crystals. Note which potion is bad and use your WoW to record that, and get one of the buffs available. Now we move to the Dwarven District. And the very first mob I want to talk about is Faceless Willbreaker. He's a beefy mob that drops puddles that deal shadow damage. Just move away and kill him. The Taskmaster and Weaponsmith are not very dangerous mobs. Taskmaster buffs himself and a group to deal more damage, and Weaponsmith casts Breath of Fire, which is easily avoidable. Just use your AoE to clear the packs. Forgeguard Harul is the first and the only elite mob that gives you sanity back after you kill him if you have the elite extermination unlocked. Another important thing is that his damaging abilities do sanity damage, so be careful with this guy. On lower cloak levels, you will probably want to pop the orb before you start the fight. His two main abilities are Void Tainted Blades, which is a debuff on you to take more damage, and Entropic Leap. Entropic Leap is the one that drains sanity. When he uses it, he jumps at your location several times. Before he jumps, you can see the spot where he's about to jump and just move out. During the fight, he will cast both abilities several times. Try to avoid the leap and you'll be good. Another thing to keep in mind here, if you're full on sanity, then don't start the fight with this guy, because you will lose your sanity recovery. Just go and clear some packs, and after that come back and get your sanity restored. The mini-boss has two main abilities. First, he drops 2 bombs, which detonate after 5 seconds. I haven't showed it here, but you actually can click on them and kick them aside. That way you will clear some space. When bombs detonate, they create huge puddles that drain your sanity. Try to not stand in those. Second ability is Breath of Fire. It's easily notable and easily avoidable. Step aside and let him finish the cast. During the fight, he rotates those two abilities. If you learn to avoid them, it's an easy kill. By the time you kill the first mini-boss and finish the zone, you should have both chests and both crystals collected. You don't want to go back and lose time and sanity. Use the WoWers to help you. The next zone on our route is Old Town, and this is a difficult zone. The mobs here are more dangerous and there is more of them. You also lose your sanity much quicker. The best spot to use your sanity food if you need it is right before you enter the zone. The first two mobs that you meet when you enter the zone is S7 Light Hunters. These guys do moderate amount of damage, but their blades are poisoned with numbling poison, which reduces your haste and movement speed. This poison can be very dangerous if you pull large packs. And there's a lot of these guys in this zone. The only good thing about this zone is that you get Alleria to help you. She can do a bit of damage, tank mobs a little bit, and in general make your life easier. The first elite mob in this zone is Artmaster Turrenson. Her main two abilities drain sanity. First ability is Blade Flourish, which is a wind whirl. To avoid it, just move out from the circle. Second ability is Roaring Blast, that's a shot in a specific direction. Move aside and you'll be safe. Before you start the fight, make sure you're missing more than 200 sanity, because killing her will restore it. Otherwise, you will just waste it. Moving on to the next group of 3 mobs. You already know the Willbreaker, so I'm not gonna cover him again. But the important guys here are SI7 Informants. They are the most dangerous mobs in this whole zone. Their ability, called Touch of the Abyss, is a long stun that deals shadow damage. and this ability can be deadly if you pull big. Even if you pull small packs, if you don't kill these guys first, they can put you down. The next new mob is Shadowblade. He's just a damage dealer, but really good one. During the fight he will cast Spiteful Assault, which deals a lot of shadow damage. If you have several of these guys, combined with the poison from Light Hunters and Touch of the Abyss, you're dead. Now we move to the bar. And here we have 5 mobs, 2 informants, 2 Light Hunters and 1 Shadowblade. This is basically a recap of what we've learned so far. What I usually do here is I single focus one of the informants and melt him as quick as I can. Then I keep my interrupt for the second informant in case he wants to cast the Touch of the Abyss, and after I kill them both, I just AoE the rest. The bartender is not dangerous at all, and I'm not even going to cover any of his abilities. It's a 100% easy kill. After you're done, check the crystal spawn location upstairs and move on. Please be careful with how many groups you're pulling at a time. You don't want to have more than 2 informants in that pool and 2 Shadowblades. So don't be shy there, but be safe. The last mob to talk about before the elite and the zone boss is Executioner. He is dangerous because of 2 things. First is his buff. If you fall below 50% health, he will start dealing massive shadow damage with his melee hits. If you're pulling big groups, you will have huge survivability issues because of that. The second ability, and the one that I unfortunately didn't show here, is the hook. He's using it to pull you to him right in the middle of a group. And have no doubt that you will have a full house there. Light Hunter, Shadowblade, Informant, all of them will be there. So please be sure that you finish your fight with the previous group before you start pulling the group with this guy. To avoid the hook, just run into the group. Now the second elite. The fight is actually very easy. All you have to do is avoid the void zones that deal shadow damage and drain sanity. One thing to keep in mind though is before you start the fight, you should clear the side groups to have more space for maneuvers. And even if you feel that you have enough space for movement, I would suggest to kill them all, because sometimes chests and crystals spawn in locations that literally force you to clear almost entire zone. Now we finally got to the zone boss, Overlord Matthias Shaw. The fight is not very hard but tricky, mostly because of the Eyes of Chaos that drain sanity if you look at them. So the trick is, you'll have to position yourself the way you don't look at the eyes to not lose sanity and still be able to focus and damage the boss. During the fight, he will vanish several times and you will lose the target. When he comes back again, he will spawn another eye. The maximum amount of eyes can be 3, and when it's all 3 of them, it can be really hard to not lose any sanity. The key here is practice. The more you practice the fight, the better you become, as always. Also, when he vanishes, a void zone appears that you have to avoid because it drains sanity. A quick tip here is that you actually can move a little bit farther and pull the eye to your location, and then come back, and Shaw should spawn at the same spot he vanished, and you'll be safe to continue damaging him. Alright, we successfully cleared 2 zones. Make sure that you collected all the chests and crystals, take the portal back, and we move to the third one. Trade District. Trade District is a very easy zone, but there are a couple of mobs that can make it hard to just fly through. And the first one is the Tentacle. It doesn't hit hard, but the most annoying is that it drops your target focus when it hides under the ground, forcing you to switch to a different target. It comes out right under you and throws you up in the air, not very high, but enough to mess up your rotation or interrupt the cast. This makes you reposition frequently, which can appear much harder than sounds, especially when you're running with masks and pulling several groups at a time. The Tormentor, on the other hand, is not a big deal at all. He has only one ability, Mental Assault, that deals shadow damage. Interrupt the cast and melt him. You'll see a lot of them in this zone. The next one on our route is Slave Driver. Same as Tormentor, he casts only one ability called Brutal Smash. It's a several second stun that's very easy to see and avoid. Just walk out from the circle. The big guy right there is Faceless Shadowcaller. Another beefy mob that just takes more time to kill. Casts spheres that form a puddle on the ground that you need to avoid. Now if you notice that the bank door is open, this means you can get a 10% crit buff. I strongly suggest you to take it. It's an easy fight. No comments here. The rest of the zone is pretty much a mix of Tormentors, Slave Drivers, and Tentacles. After killing a boss in this zone, you will have to run around the district one more time to finish the quest objective. So feel free to skip chests and crystals if you're losing sanity too quickly. You'll be able to pick them up later. Okay, it's time to look at the elite. Inquisitor Darkspear. He is the most dangerous mob in this zone in my opinion. I would describe this fight as very sanity loss heavy. Even though he returns sanity after being killed, his agonizing torment ability drains it very quickly and he casts it almost 80% of the fight. Yes, you can interrupt it, but you can't interrupt them all. You will lose sanity in this fight anyway, the question is how much you lose. The second ability is a debuff that makes you hostile to allies and reduces healing received by 100%. Not a big deal if you run solo. The best tactic for this fight is trying to align your gift to the Titan if you have it unlocked at the beginning. Make sure you have a comfortable level of sanity before pull. If you don't have Elite Extermination unlocked, this is a good spot to pop the orb and start the fight while it's active. Use your Focusing Iris or Purification Protocol along with cooldowns to put this guy down as quickly as possible. This is a speed kill task. By the way, if you're a paladin, your bubble will also block any sanity damage. Keep that in mind. Zone Boss. Very easy fight. Avoid tentacles that he summons and don't get pulled into a void zone when he casts the chains. If you get pulled into the void zone, you'll get stunned and lose sanity. And this is the whole fight. You can easily avoid any sanity loss with this guy, that's why I think he's much easier than the elite. Now all you have to do is to run around the district and open 8 cells. Collect chests and crystals if you haven't got them yet. Please make sure you open all cells, because you won't get your reward chest at the end if you don't free all the captivates. Now we finally made it to the Mage Quarter. I know, at the beginning of this video I mentioned that the sooner you get here, the more confident you'll become. But I admit that it can also be very challenging, and if you're still leveling your cloak, Old Town can be easier for collecting the pages. Right when you enter the zone, you will notice crawling corruptions coming out from every corner. This is another annoying zone specifics for us to handle. And the main problem is not their damage. It's actually their ability to keep you in combat, which will trigger the lead-in food effect if you get this madness and slow you down dramatically. Plus, you can't use orbs when you're in combat. So if you need to use an orb, make sure you don't have any of them near you. And generally, try to be much safer in this zone. I'm going left because I don't like that Boundless Corruption elite, and I prefer to have an open area in case I need to pop an orb. But you can take the right turn, which will lead you to Zadreth of the Black Claw, another elite that is actually summoning those corruptions until you kill him. Portal Master is the Shadowcaller. He just throws puddles that you need to avoid. Your primary target here is Greater Void Elemental. His debuff makes you take more shadow damage and it stacks. At 2 stacks it becomes really noticeable, at 3 and more can be deadly. interrupt the casts, and nuke him. Now let's kill the elite. The fight is very movement heavy. He has two main abilities. Passive ability is he throws the puddles everywhere around him, which you need to avoid to not take sanity damage. And active is a huge void beam that you need to sidestep. The puddles force you to reposition constantly, and the fight becomes harder when you wear masks, especially of Daredevil, Burned Bridge, and Painted on top of Leaden Foot Madness. Another thing you might have noticed is he summons all crawling corruptions around to join the fight. This can be another reason why you may prefer to kill Zadrith first. Next group is a combo of two Void Speakers and Elemental. I always kill the Void Speakers first because I don't want to get feared. If you decide to go for Elemental first, most likely you will get feared, maybe more than once. And this, in my opinion, is much worse than living through 2-3 Elemental debuff stacks. This was the last group to cover here. The rest of the Portal Keepers are just a mix of already known mobs. Keep your eyes open and don't miss any chests and crystals. Their locations are pretty much on your route. Now let's talk about Zadrith. The only dangerous ability he casts is Rain of Fire that drains your sanity. You need to position yourself outside the circle. He will also spam you with Shadow Bolts that deal a small amount of damage. You will not interrupt all Shadow Bolts, so if you're a melee class, use your interrupts to pull him outside the rain impact area. And yes, he also summons low HP adds that drop pretty quickly from cleaves. That's the whole fight. Get some sanity back, close the other portals, and prepare to fight the zone boss. Right now you see all portals locations on the map, and I've marked the ones that are left to be closed. They both are located next to houses, and you can walk through those houses to get to the tower square. There can be crystals behind the bars too, so check those spots as well. Magister Umbric casts Entropic Missiles, which is a channel ability that drains lots of sanity. From time to time, he casts Polymorph that turns you into a sheep for 4 seconds. Both casts are interruptible, but I would focus on interrupting the sheeps. Losing control is always bad. At 80, 45 and 25%, he teleports to one side of the room and starts casting Frozen Storm. During the cast, he is immune to any ranged damage and launches Frostballs that stun and drain sanity. Your job is to get near him ASAP to stop the cast. Here you don't need to use interrupts to stop it. Keep them ready for Polymorph. After that, it's the same missiles and polymorphs. If you melt him quickly enough, he will teleport only 2 times. A good idea is to start the fight under the orb. After you kill him, the portal will appear and you teleport to the Cathedral Square. Now, go and turn in your crystals. This is important to remember because you will lose mementos if you don't do this now. Alleria, the final boss. You already know her own abilities. Darkened Sky is puddles that you need to avoid, and Void Eruption, a huge sanity drain explosion. With each quarter cleared, she gets additional abilities. Bumps from the Dwarven District boss, One Eye of Chaos from Shaw, Chains from the Trade District boss, and of course Polymorph from Umbric. This is a hard fight that requires practice. Use your cooldowns, essences, drums, hero bloodlust on pull to put her down ASAP. The longer the fight, the harder it becomes. Don't forget about your cheat death, if you have it. If you're low on sanity, you may want to hold your cooldowns to use them right after you revive. If you have an orb, start the fight under it. Click on the bumps to knock them away, but remember you'll need safe spots behind the pillars. If the eye is right next to her, turn 90 degrees away. This will still allow you to damage the boss, but the eye won't be able to drain sanity. Interrupt polymorphs. A single sheep here can be deadly. And finally, hide behind the pillars during Void Eruption and chains. If you hug a pillar during chains, you can stop moving and will be fine. Good luck, champions. I believe in you. And that's it for today. To wrap up, I'd like to thank all subscribers for not leaving me during this hard time. Unfortunately, things don't always go as we plan. Thank you so much. You guys are the best. Let me know in the comments if you like the format I've picked for the guide and if I should consider it for upcoming Shadowlands guides. For those who are new to the channel, welcome to GOG, feel free to subscribe, comment, like, dislike, and I hope to see you in my next episode. Cheers!